Mark, stay with us once again. We are going to stay in Europe now, and the European Union's Foreign Affairs Council is set to meet in Brussels on the 15th of July to discuss several key international issues with a focus on Russia's ongoing war in Ukraine and the escalating conflict in Gaza. Finland's State Secretary Pasi Rajala will represent the country at the meeting. Rajala emphasised that the EU must maintain support for Ukraine, pointing out that Russia's continued bombardment of Ukrainian cities shows President Putin's lack of interest in genuine peace talks. Another major issue on the table will be the situation in Gaza, where the EU continues to push for a ceasefire. In addition to discussions on Gaza, the Council will also address developments in Georgia and the Mediterranean region. In a parallel meeting, EU foreign ministers will discuss potential actions against Israel over its military campaign in Gaza. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas has proposed several sanctions, including the suspension of cooperation deals, sanctions against Israeli ministers and an arms embargo. However, the EU states remain deeply divided over the issue, and diplomats suggest that no concrete actions will be taken for now. The presence of Syrian Foreign Minister Assad Hassan al-Shabaini at the meeting has drawn attention as well, as Israel and Syria have been engaging in quiet diplomatic efforts to explore possible peace agreements. While the EU struggles to find a unified stance, Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Saar remains confident that the bloc will not impose any major sanctions. He noted that Israel has made progress in improving humanitarian access to Gaza, though he acknowledged that more does need to be done. Let's listen to those comments.
There is a war going there, and what's happening on the ground there, mainly with regard to the GHF initiative, is that Hamas is trying to stop people from get the aid directly, because they want to be the mediators of the humanitarian aid. That's how it became a financial resource for Hamas in Gaza Strip. They are threatening the people, they shoot at people, they kidnap some people, they killed Palestinians, they also attacked Americans there. But first of all, it is crucial that this aid will be given to the people. And secondly, it's also important to disconnect Hamas from the aid. And this is part of the things that were raised in our dialogue with the EU.
Meanwhile, Denmark has shown interest in providing additional military support, potentially offering Patriot missile systems to enhance regional security. Let's have a listen to Lars Løkke Rasmussen, the Danish foreign minister, and what they had to say.
We don't have these kind of systems, the Patriot systems, so if we should lean in that, and we are absolutely ready to do so, it will be, money. And we have to work out the details. It could be the Ukrainian buying it themselves, and then we have to, support Ukraine, or it could be directly payment to US. I think we must work out the details. The most important thing is that we now have American readiness to deliver these most needed weapons.
Moreover, the Dutch foreign minister has announced that the Dutch government is positively considering a request to financially support the US weapons plan for Ukraine. According to Foreign Minister Casper Veldkamp, the Dutch government is looking into the Patriot systems and its potential support. The minister also expressed hope that other countries could contribute to the plan. Well, thank you, Mark, for staying with us. That was a little bit jumbled there. We had Russia-Ukraine, Israel, back to Russia-Ukraine, but we've spoken a lot about the European conflict. I'd like to move our attentions now over to the ongoing Gaza war. Israel and Hamas, of course, engaged in discussions over diplomacy, but those are continuing to stall. Potential sanctions coming from the EU. There has been divide, we mentioned that, but also key European nations speaking out against the humanitarian situation and the aid distribution within the Gaza enclave. Do you think that a bloc of EU nations could come together to agree sanctions on an issue that is so divisive?
Hamas is a terrorist group. We need to make that very, very clear. They have been firing rockets since coming into power in Gaza in 2007. On the 7th of October 2023, they attacked they attacked Israel. They killed 1,200 of the Israeli citizens, injured many more on their incursions in. They have then built a huge tunnel network underneath. They do not fight under the Geneva Convention of 1949, but everyone expects, and the Israeli army do, to then fight under that convention. They are not an army, they are terrorists. The EU, and in painting this, and again, we have to go down a historical line, because of the way that the EU, particularly with their pan-Arab discussions from 1973, the reliance on oil, etc., etc. As far as I'm concerned, and within the UN, there is a bias in regard to where Israel is concerned and the actions of Israel, and this really stepped up from 1967 after the Six-Day War sanctions. This then affects Europe. If you then have sanctions against Israel, in my opinion, you are then siding with a terrorist group that are within Gaza. The Israelis left Gaza in 2005 to then give the Palestinian people, as addressed, a two-state solution. They had turned down four offers of that beforehand. They were given that land. They then, all Jewish communities withdrew, etc., etc. They were given the opportunity to then set up businesses to then, because the infrastructure was left, it used to export flowers, etc., all over the world from that region. They were then given the opportunity to turn it into the French Riviera equivalent. They decided under an ideology of jihadism to not do that. Hamas is a section of, they follow the Muslim Brotherhood ideology and mindset. Now, as much as that may be unpopular to say, European leaders will not face this, will not face the history, and will not, after all of the history that we could go through, and we need many hours to discuss that, of the fact that the land is there for the Jewish people that came about in 1948 after the Second World War. People then, international law through the UN, wish to dispute all that, and as I say, we need a number of hours to do that. Israel needs to finish the job because for its own security, whether people like it, whether people like that or not. Unfortunately, war is an appalling undertaking. It is profoundly messy, and sadly people get killed. When Hamas give out figures, those figures are not true, as they are a lot lower. The amount of figures in regard to the combatant death per civilian death are incredible with what the Israeli army are able to then achieve. Am I saying that war is good? No, but Israel did not start that. Hamas is then, like Hezbollah, like the Houthis, is a proxy of Iran, and Iran's whole ideology is to wipe Israel off the face of the earth and to then pour out the last drop of Jewish blood, because then its ideology says our Mahdi comes back and then we have heaven.
Yes, Mark, sorry to interject. We are running shorter on time, and there are a couple of further points that I would like to discuss with you, but thank you ever so much for the insight on that issue, and we of course will be across all the developments from this upcoming EU summit. But we stay again in Europe, and weeks before the deadly crash